Hello everyone. For today's video, we're taking a look at some of the best roguelike auto-battler games you can play right now. These are the kind of games where you don't control the fight directly. Instead, you build your setup, create strong combos, and then sit back and watch everything play out, and somehow that makes it even more exciting. Well, let's get into the list. Commander Quest is a mix of deck building, roguelike, and auto-battler with a bit of strategy on top, and once you start playing, it's really hard to stop. The idea is simple. Instead of attacking enemies directly, you summon units onto the battlefield. Each map has limited space, so you have to think carefully about where to place your troops. There's also a lot of strategy in how units interact. Some enemies have shields that reduce damage from ranged units, so you might want to counter them with cavalry. But then, some of those enemies have abilities that deal extra damage to fast units. So every decision matters, and you're always thinking one step ahead. Dungeon 100 is one of those games with a really cool idea. It's another auto-battler mixed with a deck builder with a bit of that Diablo-style look. You create a deck using different cards. Even though all classes share the same pool, there's still a lot of variety. Certain cards belong to groups, and if you stack the same group, you get bonuses. On top of that, the way cards work is actually pretty interesting. They activate from left to right, so the order you place them really matters. Some cards can even trigger combos, like activating another card if something happens before it. So building your deck isn't just about what you use, but also how you arrange it. Mage and Monsters is one of those games that looks really simple at first, but once you play it, you realize there's a lot more strategy behind it. It's an auto-battler where you build your army and support it with spells. Before each fight, you choose your units and upgrades, deciding how you want your team to work. The game is all about balance. If you spend too much on your army, your mage becomes weak, but if you focus too much on spells, your team might fall apart too quickly. So you always have to think ahead and manage your resources carefully. As you progress, the game gets harder. New enemies appear and they force you to change your strategy. You can't just use the same build every time, you need to adapt. At first glance, Time Walker Dark World looks pretty complex. There are a lot of systems, a lot of abilities, and a lot going on. But once you start playing, things slowly begin to make sense. At the start of the game, you choose your team. There are 4 main classes: Fighter, Assassin, Archer, and Mage. You pick one from each, and that becomes your starting lineup. The combat happens on a grid. You place your units into positions, and they automatically fight enemies in front of them. You can focus multiple units on one enemy, or spread them out depending on the situation. And since you only have about a minute to clear each room, you have to think fast. Just King is called an auto-battler, but honestly, it feels more like a mix between an auto-battler and something like Brotado. In this game, you control a small king in the center with 4 slots around him. You fill those slots with different party members, and each one has their own attacks, abilities, and roles. Some are damage dealers, some support, and some are just really unique. Now here's where the game feels different. The combat happens in real time. You move your king around the arena and your team follows and attacks automatically. You can also rotate your formation to control how your units face enemies, so it's much more active compared to traditional auto-battlers. Hadean Tactics is an auto-battler that has a strong tabletop feel. The battles take place on a hex-based board, and your units look like little fantasy miniatures. It has this nice, charming style that makes everything feel like a board game brought to life. The game is split into 2 main parts. The Tales side is like a light story adventure. You travel through different areas, meet characters, and make choices along the way. Then there's the tactics side, and this is where the real gameplay happens. In battles, you place your units on the board, choosing their positions carefully. But once the fight starts, everything plays out automatically in real time, just like any auto-battler. This means positioning and team building are very important. Dwarves, Glory, Death, and Loot is an auto-battler where you build a team of dwarves and send them into battle against waves of orcs. Your dwarves can take different weapons, and that's what defines their role. Give one a sword and shield, and it becomes a tanky knight. Give another healing tools, and now you have support. You can build different classes like paladins, thieves, and more depending on what you equip, so your strategy comes from how you build your team and what roles you choose. As for the combat, like most auto-battlers, positioning and synergy matter a lot. The game doesn't really reinvent the genre. It sticks to the basics, but it does them well. If you already enjoy auto-battlers, you'll likely have a good time here. Legend Creatures is a fun auto-battler, similar to games like Teamfight Tactics or Dota Underlords. You will build your team, manage your units, and watch battles play out automatically. Just like other games in the genre, the strategy comes from how you build your team and how well your units work together. Now, one thing you'll notice right away, the game isn't very polished. There are some translation issues, and parts of the text can feel a bit messy or confusing. But here's the surprising part. Even with all those issues, the game is still really fun. The core gameplay is strong enough to keep you coming back. Once you understand how things work, there's a lot of strategy and decision-making involved. The Last Flame is a roguelike auto-battler that gives you a lot of freedom to build your team however you want. Every run, you build a team of heroes, but what makes it interesting is how flexible and customizable everything is. You're not locked into one playstyle. Each hero can go in multiple directions. For example, one character might apply both burn and frost effects, and you get to decide how you want to use them. Do you build around fire, ice, debuffs, or mix everything together? That freedom is what makes the game really fun. On top of that, you can customize your heroes even more by changing their passives. So you can adjust your team depending on what you need and experiment with different combinations. Hadean Tactics is a roguelike dungeon crawler that mixes card games with auto-battler combat. The strategy comes from how you build everything. You need to choose the right path on the map, pick units that work well together, and grab relics that boost your overall power. Some units belong to the same group, and when you stack them together, they gain extra bonuses. The combat is where things get really interesting. Battles take place on a grid, kind of like a chessboard. You draw cards into your hand, and each card costs energy to use. Once you play your cards, the fight plays out automatically for a few seconds. During that time, your units attack, use abilities, and react based on everything you've set up, your cards, your relics, and your positioning. Vivid Night is a cute and colorful roguelike auto-battler where you explore dungeons and build your team using magical gemstones. Each gemstone represents a hero, and when you collect them, you can summon those heroes to fight for you. What makes the game interesting is how these heroes work together. Each one has different attributes, and when you combine the right ones, you unlock powerful bonuses. Early on, you don't really need to think too much about it since the game is pretty easy, but as you go deeper, enemies get stronger, and that's when strategy becomes important. You'll need to build a team with strong synergy, choosing heroes that work well together if you want to survive. Despot's game is an auto-battler where you build and manage a small army as you fight your way through dangerous dungeons. At the start of each run, you choose a basic army. You can go balanced, offensive, or defensive. It feels simple at first, and like most roguelikes, the early game gives you confidence. Maybe a little too much confidence. Because sooner or later, the difficulty spikes, and your entire army gets wiped out. Your army grows stronger over time, but managing it isn't just about combat. You also have to deal with hunger. Every time you move to a new room, your army consumes food. The bigger your army, the faster your food runs out. So you constantly have to balance between building a strong team and making sure they don't starve. Super Auto Pets is a free-to-play auto battler where your goal is to build a team of animals and reach 10 wins before you run out of lives. At first glance, it looks super simple and cute, but don't let that fool you. This game has a lot more depth than you'd expect. Each round, you go into a shop where you can buy new pets, combine duplicates to level them up, grab items, or roll for better options. Then the battle starts, and just like any auto battler, you sit back and watch. But what makes Super Auto Pets different is how it handles positioning. Instead of a big board, everything happens in a single line. That means where you place each animal really matters. Some abilities affect units in front, some hit behind, and some depend entirely on their position. So you're not just building a strong team, you're carefully arranging it.
You're so
The King is Watching is an auto battler with some light strategy elements. You're defending your kingdom from waves of goblins, but you don't directly control your army because, well, you're the king, that's beneath you. Instead, your job is to manage your kingdom's economy, and more importantly, keep an eye on your workers. And here's the twist. Your peasants only work when you're watching them. The moment you look away, they stop. That's literally the main mechanic of the game, and it's what makes it so unique. You can only focus your vision on one area at a time, so you're constantly deciding where to look, what to prioritize, and what to ignore.
At least we make contact. You
took your gold, your walls, and your dignity.
remember when I told the goblins I was a god? They joined.
Backpack Battles is an auto battler where you don't control your character at all. Instead, everything depends on how you organize your backpack. You'll be placing weapons, armor, and magical items into a small grid, kind of like Tetris. But every single placement matters. One bad setup and you could lose badly. You begin with just a few simple items, but as you win battles, you earn gold and buy new gear from a rotating shop. This is where the game really starts to shine. Every item has a unique shape and effect. Some activate on cooldown, some give bonuses when placed next to certain items, and others can completely change how your build works. The challenge is trying to fit everything into your limited space while creating strong combos and planning ahead. That's all for today's list. Subscribe and like for more exciting new roguelike and roguelite games. That's it, and see you next time.